let's look at this particular article which was published recently. China tries to win global acceptance for traditional COVID cures. The gist of the article is that, and it says, Chinese mixtures are part of President Xi's effort to compete with the West. It says President Xi Jinping wants other countries to give China's herbal cures a chance. His government is promoting TCM to allies worldwide, sending traditional medicine specialists to Cambodia and supporting clinical trials in Pakistan. Both countries are relying heavily on Chinese aid. But as I said, China has sent TCM experts to 29 countries and regions and products to 10 countries and regions and shared expertise with 150 countries and regions. Are they all China's allies? I understand that these countries need the help that China can offer. Previously, it was masks or vaccines. Increasingly, it also involves treatment. And cost is a big factor for many of these countries. Big pharma patent drugs for treating COVID cost between $500 to $700 per 5-day course. How many people in developing countries can afford them? When Western drugs are expensive and likely unavailable, Chinese alternatives can save lives. Is that a bad thing? The article doesn't say so, of course, but implies there's a hidden agenda. It says making TCM globally acceptable as a treatment option for COVID is an important part of Xi's strategy to use the pandemic to alleviate Chinese innovations and inventions, and that China has still not approved widely used vaccines from AstraZeneca and Pfizer, instead developing its own vaccines and making them easily available worldwide. One analyst in Australia is used to underscore these points, saying to advance its soft power goals, China needs locally developed vaccines and treatment, and that this is part of creating a Sino-centered world and a door opener. Now we see the real problem of China's activities from the perspective of such reports. It's not about TCM, but about Western geopolitical and economic interests being threatened by the promotion of TCM. Their logic seems to be, it's okay for Big Pharma to knock and open doors in China, but not the other way around. Chinese companies have the right to compete in the world on an equal and mutually beneficial basis. How about letting the other countries decide? As we speak, Western medicine, or conventional medicine as they are called, already has a dominant position, covering over 70% of sales in the Chinese drug market alone in 2020. TCM, being part of Chinese cultural heritage, has long been sidelined. What TCM is asking now is not much. It doesn't seek to replace Western medicine. Chinese President Xi said last year that efforts should be made to incorporate TCM and Western medicine as a general principle. In China's latest guidelines for COVID-19, Pfizer's oral antiviral medicine is added side by side with TCM. Now, ask yourself this: if China were to let the coronavirus rip and use Western vaccines and treatment drugs only, what would happen to the world's stock of drugs? What would China be accused of then? Hoarding? Slaughtering the world's population? While discounting China's legitimate activities, the same article, of course, doesn't miss the perpetual question of efficacy of TCM. It says, researchers in China have published studies purporting to show the efficacy of herbal treatments, and state media frequently quote Xi calling TCM a treasure of the Chinese nation. To support this claim, the article finds an analyst, this time based in the UK, who claims there is no solid evidence that TCM works. But this is lazy journalism. We've already seen a slew of reports doubting TCM, especially since the pandemic began. And here, you're just seeing some examples. The West insists on having scientific explanation as proof that TCM works, but there is a distinction between clinical proof and what they refer to as scientific proof. China has gathered strong evidence from clinical experiences over the past, and compared to most other countries, and especially considering its dense population, China has been able to keep its COVID mortality extremely low. Let's take the figures from 2021 as an example. China registered 15,000 cases of positive or infections of COVID-19 with only 2 deaths. What more powerful numbers do we need to show Chinese methods work? There are people who will say, well, China's numbers are opaque. Let me tell you this. With 1 billion internet users, it's extremely difficult to cover up deaths, even in small amounts. Science is not yet able to fully explain TCM. Is TCM to blame?